Good morning. My name is Angel, and this is episode 15 of Saying Goodbye. And what a journey it has been. It has been a long, grueling journey to go back and think about all the things that have transpired in my life, the things that I have been through. And after the last episode, I really thought about everything that I have been through. And as I go through these episodes, I've really been processing a lot of things of what I've been through and what I had to endure in life. Some things self-inflicted, a lot of things not so much when I was younger. But after I reached a certain age, there are a lot of things that I continued to carry, I continue to do to myself, because of the abuse that I suffered, at the hands of others, mentally, emotionally, sometimes, a lot of times physically, because, I guess they could say I was a difficult child. I just didn't learn, home training manners and a lot of different things that other kids would learn. I learned in the streets. I learned the wrong things. I really didn't know much about what life was. Never was taught about healthy relationships and what that meant, what that looked like, what it should feel like. And those were a lot of things that were missing in my life. I didn't understand how to connect the dots about being a man and providing. And providing not only meant financially, it meant emotionally, about being present, not being disconnected. And now when I think about a lot of people just not wanting to be associated with me because I remind them of just where they're at in their own lives, or some people just like to see you doing good, just not better than them. And unfortunately, in a lot of situations when it comes to other men or family, everything is a competition. Everything is a measurement. Everything it's calculated. And I think back to when I was a kid, and I think back to what it is that I was, that I felt like what was missing from when I was a kid, to now, and how things have changed. And really, people just did things together. We could find the neighborhood kids, and also we were children. We didn't have a lot of responsibility, so we just really lived life on the edge, and it was very exciting. It was dangerous. And now I think, how can I live my life like that again? How can I begin to live my life free? Free from what society tells us we have to live, free from what the government says it must be, free from all the patterns we picked up from the abuse, all the patterns we picked up from the streets, all the patterns we picked up from the drugs and the alcohol. There's a lot of things that have happened. And even though I've been rejected, I've been let down, put down, told I'm not good enough, family just closing me out of things and just making it known that I'm not wanted or nobody wants me around, people will let you know, and sometimes subtle ways and sometimes frank ways. And growing up like that, being rejected all your life and not really being let in, I became aggressive and I forced my way in the door. And it still doesn't feel as good as someone just opening the door and saying, hey, it's all right, man, you're welcome. Come on in. And like today in this present time, like where I'm at in my life, that is the most difficult thing. Is just not to have that welcoming love. And I don't know if I would ever experience that. I don't know if I would experience like, for me it's like maybe it's an imagination, maybe it's something that maybe it's something that I'm fantasizing about. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just like, I remember hearing the song, on the TV show in Cheers, and it's like, you come where everybody knows your name, and there's no more gatherings. But I would like to make, my home the gatherings, and let people come by and have a barbecue and do things. And, maybe I could do that for my children. Maybe I could do that and just be exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And that's the challenge, like right now in my life, that if I want things a certain way, I gotta be that. If I want love, if I want unconditional love, I gotta give that to myself. If I want someone to care about me in a way that it just overflows, then I have to be that in my own life. I have to consistently pray to God. I have to consistently show up, go to my therapy sessions, go to my meetings. I need to go work out because it makes me feel good. It just keeps a balance. And for me, I'm always doing a lot of things because I don't mind sitting still. I don't mind not having anything to do. I don't like to stay there too long. I can have a day, I can have two. After that, I need to move. I need to hit the gym. I need to have some type of order in my life. But that's my story. And thinking back to like what I had and what I didn't have in my life, at this point, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what anybody does. It doesn't matter what anybody doesn't do. But it still affects us. And how do I deal with that on a daily basis? Or like when things happen and I really need a hand and nobody's there to help. How do I deal with that? I tell you that is some of the most difficult things to deal with, like today and age. Even with going to therapy, going to meetings, we're understanding things, doing steps, we're doing all the work. And even though I let that little boy out to play, and it's safe most times, like life shows up. And guess what? The waves are gonna crash the shore. And I guess we can never stop that. And it's just the way that I respond. Like yesterday, I had a really bad day. I've had, these last 2 or 3 weeks have been extreme for me. At work, just in my everyday life, things have been really challenging. And I'm continuing to talk, to express myself, to say what I'm going through, to talk with the people that I'm having the difficulties with. And that is a big difference. So instead of just shutting down, going in, because I can shut down. I'll get in my truck, nobody's invited, and I'll take my ass on somewhere, and I could have some quiet time for an hour or two if I need to. But I'm just learning that that's not, even though I'm not being confrontational, it doesn't mean that it's not negative. And for me, what is important for me? Like, what would make me feel better? What can I do in the moment? Sometimes in the moment, the healthiest thing is to just leave it alone. And like revisit it and come back and then talk about it. Sometimes that's the best thing to do. But honestly, like now with the things that I'm dealing with, I find it best to talk about it like right in the moment. So I guess things are starting to change. And instead of harboring those feelings and, just allowing my stinking thinking to get the best of me and just like imploding and feeling like the worst person and just not feeling good about myself and allowing that to be the driving force for the next couple of days, for the next week, and just letting that just tear me down. I'm just not allowing that to happen. And that's where the change starts to come. When you like switch up the patterns, you start to understand the way that you behave, and then you look at like where it took you the last time you did that, and then you say, hold up, let me switch something up, let me do something different. And in my life, trying different things, I failed a lot. I failed miserably. And failure is a beautiful thing. It definitely lets you know where you don't belong or where you shouldn't be. And I think that for me in my life, I need to make that a normal thing, that it's okay to fail. It's okay to get it wrong. It's okay not to be right. And it's okay to laugh at yourself, because things are just way too serious. Yesterday was like by far one of the hardest days that I've had in a long, long time. But I made it through. I came to work. I didn't stop moving until I was leaving. I worked out. I went to, just set things up for today. And after that, I went with my son. We went to Sky Zone. I actually jumped with him. I was already tired. I was already exhausted. But I went and I jumped with him, and it really made me feel good. I asked for a little bit of help. I got rejected, and it pissed me off. And I didn't stay in that funk, but I did express myself. And then after, believe it or not, after I went jumping in Sky Zone, my mature ass, I felt pretty good. There was no room for feeling sad while you jumping and you trying to crawl your way out of a pit of foam. And the smile on my son's face, because when I asked for help and I was rejected, I immediately just wanted to shut down. I didn't want to pick my son up. I didn't want to go anywhere. I'm like, F this, and I'm just gonna feel like shit. And in the moment, I realized, like, hey, I know that this is how you feel, and it's okay to feel that way. It's just not okay to stay in that emotion. It's not healthy for me. You know, I would have felt like shit 10 times more if I told my son that I was gonna pick him up, and then I didn't. And then I just sat somewhere eating fucking ice cream or something, or chocolate, and just drowning myself by eating whatever trash I can. And that's the biggest difference. That today, I don't get violent. I don't have to put my hands on nobody. I won't wind up in jail. I don't turn to like smoking weed and drinking alcohol and doing none of that shit. But I still have to process my emotions. I have to go through it. And how do I do that? I talk about it. And if I don't get what I need from talking to one person, I'll talk to somebody more mature than I am. Someone with a little more life experience, you know. And a lot of times I have the tools. A lot of times I'll just look at what's wrong. So, you know, I was thinking about why is it that I get so angry when somebody doesn't help me out when I help them out all the time, or I help them as much as I can anytime they ask. You know, the truth is because people don't care what you want. People don't. They just worried about what they want and what they don't want. And that's just the truth. There's no science to it. There's no big secret. There's none of that. There's just, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? How about this? How about that? You know, and people will push and they will ask. And then for me in my situation, instead of being angry about it and just letting it drive me nuts in my mind, like, oh, I'm not doing anything anymore, I don't have to be angry. All I have to do is just not do the things I used to do and say, no, you know, unfortunately, I can't do that. You know, I don't feel comfortable with that. And just continue to just adjust in life. You know, and that's the biggest thing for me, is that life is just a huge, constant adjustment. And when I understand that failure is good, doors being shut is good, relationships ending is good, I start to feel okay. Because that's not a death sentence. It's not the end of the world. It's not any of that. It's just some things need to end in order for other things to take place. And when I look at that simplistic way of thinking and I say it's okay to be angry with somebody, but it's up to me if I want to keep spreading myself thin. It's up to me if I want to keep being there for somebody that constantly doesn't show up for me. Because, and then, that's my fault, not theirs. It's nobody's fault that I keep showing up, or I reach out, or I do all the calling, or I do all the meeting up, and I meet them where they're at, and I do this and I do that. You know, it's just a one-way relationship. But the minute that I realize that it's a one-way relationship, it's up to me to stop and say, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not. And I could do that with peace in my heart, or I could do it with vengeance, and I could do it with hatred, and I could do it with just a huge get back. I'm going to get them back. And the only person that hurts is me. The only person that destroys is me. I don't feel good when I do that stuff. So why do I do it? I don't. I'm just not repeating the cycle anymore. It's just like, okay, I understand. You can't do it? No problem. And then when it comes time, I just can't show up anymore. Because I realize that when I show up, something happens. And then I don't feel safe or I don't feel good about what it is that I'm doing. And then it makes me feel like crap in the end. And then if I try to bring it up to them, I'm sure that I will get a response like, oh, but I didn't ask you to do that. And they're right. They're absolutely right. And in a lot of times, and in a lot of ways, they do ask. But they say, oh, I didn't force you. Or, something like that is said. And the point is that I'm the constant in all of it. I'm constantly showing up. I'm constantly doing favors. I'm constantly lending money. I'm constantly doing this. And for the first time in my life, I don't feel the need to be wanted. I don't feel the need to be accepted by anybody. I don't feel the need to be in a circle. I'm thinking, well, what can I do to make my own tradition? What can I start doing in my own home that would change the dynamic? What would bring people over here? Or how about I plan a trip and find out, every year where other family members are gathering, and just go and plan a weekend and plan a few days off and take my son with me and just go enjoy myself, and then just go back home. And it could be an adventure every time, and I could be everywhere but nowhere. And I could bring my ass back home, I could go back to work, and I could just continue living life without being attached to it all, without actually living in that state, without being involved with the family gossip, with anything. I could just show up, have a good time for 2 or 3 days, and then I could carry my ass on. And that sounds like an incredible thing. And I think that I choose that. I think that, I want to continue to show up to be with my grandbaby. He's getting big. Every time I go and I hold him, he's always like looking at me, trying to like figure out who's this guy with the short hair that looks like Santa. But still, he looks at me like he wants to understand. And like my youngest son, he's 6, and he's starting to get mouthy, and he's starting to come into his own, but he's starting to grow into his own person. And I accept him where he's at. I accept him with being a little mouthy and things like that. And I don't correct him real fast, but I will talk to him about it. Like, hey, I don't like that you talk to me that way. I'm your father, and you still have to have a certain level of respect. And don't get carried away. But I don't tell him in a negative way. I just check his ass. Because there's always a hierarchy, right? There's always somebody above. And the only one above me is God, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. That's my refuge. I could go into prayer. I could go into meditation. And then after that, I'll talk to my sponsor, or I'll talk to some of my friends, and I'll call them and we'll talk. And we just talk. I talk about where I'm at, And I remember I was told, like, damn, bro, like, everywhere you go, you want to get into a deep conversation. Well, if, I love to laugh, I love to make jokes, I love to have a good time. But after, you can't laugh for 10 hours straight or for 10 years straight, right? There's going to be a balance. Shit is going to happen, things are going to take place, and then, you got to have tough conversations. And for me, I really enjoy talking to people about who they are, because it's a tough question. And it makes people think. And it causes people to look inward. And it's just thought-provoking. In a superficial world, for me, I feel like I'm missing in my life is that intimacy of conversation, that stuff where the phone is not in your hand and you're really engaged in a conversation that's really making you think. That you could think about all the things you've been through and you could understand what you have survived. But it doesn't mean that, like, you're just surviving. And you get to choose the narrative in your life. And the narrative that I'm choosing is that I found love in brokenness. I found love. I found healing. I found laughter. I found maturity. I found God. I found the love of Jesus through his sacrifice and what he's done for humanity. I found love in sponsorship. I've accepted other people showing up for me, and it was extremely uncomfortable. I have found so many gifts, so much brotherhood, so much sisterhood. I've made friendships, I've made relationships that are gonna last. I still reach out and I text a lot of people, and we catch up for 3 or 4 minutes, and then some people are like, hey man, I'm really busy, my bad, I answered you a day later. And I get it, because sometimes I do the same shit. And the conclusion of what I've come to is that I could find a girlfriend and I could want her to be shooting rockets out her ass. I want her to be the best thing in the world. But will that girlfriend ever be something like that? Will she be what I imagine her to be? Or can I be what I want from a partner? Now that's sustainable. Keeping myself accountable, wanting to be different, wanting to love and be affectionate and not expect it in return. And if I feel like I want a little affection or something like that, then maybe I need to express it and not think that someone could just like read my mind or get upset because they're not doing it because I didn't ask. And I'm learning, I've learned so much in this life, man. And I've told a couple of people that I'm close to that if God decided that today was the last day and I wouldn't be here tomorrow, I'm not gonna go kicking and screaming. I know, I've lived an unusual life. It has been challenging. It has been it has torn me apart in ways that I thought I would never be able to put myself back together. Like a puzzle with like 5,000 pieces, 10,000, 8,000 pieces. Like that's That's what my life was. And then I understood that without these things that I've been through in my life, it wouldn't make me who I am. It wouldn't make me love as deep. It wouldn't make me as strong. Not that I would require going through these things and say, hey parents, just do these things to your kids and they're going to grow up and they're going to be triumphant. I don't know. But what it is, like what I have learned is that I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all the things I've been through. I'm grateful for the things that I've survived. I'm grateful for my ability to fight through it all. My ability to fail and never stay down. My ability to stop doing drugs. My ability to push forward and want things to be different in my life. That was all a me thing. My consistency in seeking God. My consistency in being healthy in important relationships in my life. Changing things around even if, the relationship was in the worst place. Giving people their space. Allowing things to be healthier. Not just for me. And just thinking about other people and how it affects them is so healthy in my life today. And all these things happened. I decided to go to college. Nobody told me, yo, Angel, you won't be shit if you don't go to college. I decided to go to therapy. I decided to make meetings. It wasn't parole, it wasn't probation. And if that's what led you to being clean for years, God bless you. Like we all reach our destination. I'm just saying, for me, it's a flex that I did things and I did them because that's what I wanted to do. I made a choice. I said this, I want my life different. All right, so what that looks like. People don't even call me to complain anymore because I start to ask them, okay, well, you want things different. What does that look like for you? And maybe if you love somebody, question them, hurt their feelings, make them feel uncomfortable. It's okay. They're not going to stop loving you. But we're missing that. We're missing the healthy confrontation, the bringing people back to reality. A lot of us believe that we're somewhere that we're not. And I know for me, a lot of times I believe I'm somewhere that I'm not, but I think that I'm somewhere in a negative place. And then when I rinse my face off and I look in the mirror, I say, man, life is beautiful. I got a lot going on. I have great people in my life. I have great friends. I have great brotherhood, sisterhood, all of that. I have all of that. And I've worked hard for this peace. You can work hard for this peace. And you can have that no matter what's happening in your life. It's tough when your mom passes away. It's tough when your brother's murdered. It's tough when you're watching your uncles and your aunts and cousins and friends pass away. But that's one thing that's guaranteed in this life is that we don't stay here forever. We don't belong to this earth. We're here for a short time. We're here, we're passing through. And we all got different ideas of what happens after. And whatever's your idea, that's a beautiful thing. That's for you. That's for you. And I have made this life meaningful for me. I've made it something special. I was listening, I believe, to like J. Cole yesterday, and he said something. He's like, this is my canvas. And, like he's going to paint it well. Like, every day is a blank canvas for me. And, I paint that like the way that I want it. I want my day to be. I could control it, no matter how bad it starts, no matter how bad it ends. Yesterday was a very, very challenging day, and it's okay. It's a day. I thank God that I woke up. We got a storm coming, and I'm gonna get through the storm. And in life, for me, everybody got an opinion about me. And out of all the people that have an opinion about me, I don't give a fuck about any of them. I honestly don't. Everybody got a story to tell. And you know what? That's why I'm here, minding my goddamn business, telling my own story. I don't need to go around telling everybody's story, telling everybody's business, doing all this shit that doesn't concern me. I'm telling my story. I'm telling my truth. I'm talking about my heartbreak. I'm talking about the things that I've been through, the wrong that I've done, holding myself accountable. I don't need to go around talking about people or saying anything or telling somebody else's story or somebody's outlook. I've been through so many things. I got so many friends. I've got people that were like brothers that are like, that we don't really speak. But I won't go and tell their side of the story. I could say, hey, I've been through this. This is what I went through. And I guarantee you that if you talk to them, it'll be a different story because they see it a different way. And there's 3 different stories, right? It's my story, it's their story, and then it's the truth. Whatever you believe that to be. And this has been one of my greatest accomplishments in life, is to not be afraid to put my story out there, to say what I've been through, what it has done to me, how I struggle, and how today, like where I'm at in my life, and how I still struggle. I'm human. I still have bad days. It's okay. And I'm still struggling through to find healthier ways to resolve whatever it is that I'm going to go through. And they say keep coming back, more will be revealed. And that's life. It's not just a road that you pave and then it's just going to be smooth forever. At least not for me. If it is for you that way, then God bless you and I'm happy for you. And maybe I'll hang out with you so I could be on a smooth road every now and again. But what a journey it has been. I will be looking at all my episodes, and my plan is to take each episode and make some shorts and do some things and just get my story out there more. And I would really like to get together with some people that I know in my life, that I know from the neighborhood, that I know growing up, that have been through it all and they're still standing today. And I would like to, probably get them on and do an episode with them, maybe 2 episodes, who knows, the way we need to cut it up. and what will transpire once the camera turns on. Either way, whatever it is that I do, I'll do with love, not destruction. I'll do it with care and concern, not distastefulness, not to gossip, not to do anything like that. And next episode, which will be the 16th episode, it will be my last episode about my story. I'm going to tie everything together the best I can, and it'll be meaningful to me. It'll be special. And I really want to give it its due. And I want it to be thought out. I want it to be calculated. And I want it to be meaningful in what it means to me and what this journey has been. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up and hearing me out. This has been an extraordinary journey. And if you've seen 10 minutes, 5 minutes, seen one episode, 2 episodes, you've seen all the episodes, all the same, I appreciate you taking some time out your life to just hear what I had to say. And I hope that it touched you in a way that it helped you to look at things different and give yourself some love and give yourself some grace and give yourself some space to feel whatever it is that you feel, and remember to not stay there. Thanks for listening. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. I appreciate it all. Until the next episode, I'll see you soon.